We have some thunderstorms peppering New England tonight as the upper trough finally gets out of the way. And that is going to lead us to some beautiful, beautiful mid-September weather that's heading in for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and for probably the weekend. All that and more tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is brought to you by, where'd it go?
Don't lose it.
Oh, where did it go? I can't find the Omni. Hold on. Where is it?
Oh, well.
Oh, it's not behind us. It's not in front of us. But we are brought to you by Omni True Value Hard. We're going to have to do this on the fly here, folks. So just give me a moment. It'll just take a second. I'm just going to do it right this way. Okay.
I see it down there on this corner.
Oh, there it is there. But
Yeah.
for some reason, I have a preset graphics that come up, and the command is there, but the box disappears. So we'll do it this way. Brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 12. Let me get me out of the way. 1220. Hold on. There we go. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. In southwest Suffolk County on Long Island, serving the entire New York, New Jersey, Connecticut tri-state area with everything you need to make your home work well and look well, and also make sure it works when there's tropical storms, hurricanes, or adverse weather. So head over to Omni. They serve the entire New York, New Jersey, Connecticut tri-state area, and come wintertime, the largest supplier of rock salt anywhere in those three states. 631-756-1125 for the best prices in town. And the website is
OmniTrueValue.com.
Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the fastest Joe and Joe show on record. Here it is. Are you ready?
Sunny
Beautiful weather to continue from tonight through tomorrow, right on into the upcoming weekend. Lingering thunderstorms still over portions of New England, but rapidly moving on out. Dry west-northwesterly flow becoming established here as high pressure builds down behind a second cold front later tomorrow and into tomorrow night. The tropics are still semi-comatose and not much to write about. And that pretty much is all. Good night, Joe.
Yep. You pretty much that pretty much sums it all up. It really does. It just is. And September is known that you get into these stretches where the weather is terrific, but that's what we're getting into. And there's not a whole lot else really happening here in the east. There's some heavy rains in parts of the southwest. We'll take a look at that. I will say you may notice, Joe, that I'm wearing my New York Giants sweatshirt because I not only beat you to the 40s, because I had a low this morning of 47, but my daytime high, let me just double check to make sure. Hang on a second. My daytime high today was 68. 68. So I not only beat you to the 40s, but I beat you to the first day where temperatures didn't even get out of the 60s. Are you there, Joe? Joseph. Oh, it looks like he froze up. Uh-oh. You see what he did? He cursed himself. He actually cursed himself with this because I'm still here, right? You're frozen. Okay, Joe Rayo's frozen. I'm not frozen. See? It's me. I'm here. So until we get him back, why don't we take a look? Because I actually have the radar from overnight and this morning because there were some rather hefty thunderstorms that developed, And I'm going to bring that up on the screen now while we wait for Mr. Rayo. And you can see them on the loop. I'm also going to get myself out of the screen here. And there you go. That line actually produced a tornado warning briefly this morning when it moved into Brooklyn. And then the line just looked like it was pulling out, and then it strengthened again over central Long Island. See it right there. You'll see that cell, that little complex there that goes by, and then all of a sudden it got really strong in Suffolk County and in southern Connecticut, and then it moved over southern southern Rhode Island, and eventually into southeastern Massachusetts. So that was that. And on the current radar, we're actually on the busy side here. So you'll know, at least up in New England. This is where the Storm Prediction Center had its risk area for today, and it played out pretty well. They probably had that southern edge of the marginal risk a little bit too far to the south because they had it up into northern New Jersey, and other than a couple of tiny cells, I really didn't see much of anything with regards to thunderstorms. And now they've lifted up to the northeast, but there's a snaking line through central New Hampshire down through central Massachusetts that's pretty impressive. And there's some other showers and downpours up in northern Vermont and up into upstate New York, and also east of I-81 from Syracuse down to just east of Binghamton. It looks like they'll probably go north of Chuck Cardillo's house, from what I'm figuring. And let me go to this. I'm going to go to this next the UCAR radar here. Let me just reset the parameters. So we're going to have the most recent. We'll do let's do a 6-hour loop and head up to the Boston radar and take a look at what's happening. So this is the last 6 hours. Those storms went off southeastern New England, and now you can see that line that is moving through Vermont with those rather strong thunderstorms. Now on the last frame, looks like they were just about to the east of Springfield and pushing eastward. There's that line again in western Mass, and then now into New Hampshire and in central Massachusetts, and then of course from earlier those heavier downpours and showers that we saw down in the southeast. So let me see if he's there. Nope, I don't know. Something happened over there. He must have lost power because that's what I'm guessing. He must have lost power. I'm just gonna quickly let me see if I got a text message. Oh, I do. Let's see. And he had to wait for they lost power. Yes. So he's waiting for the internet to come back on. So here we go on the satellite loop. We'll just continue on here. And on the satellite loop tonight, we've got I got it up here with the lightning flashes. You can see the area that's up in New England. Also, you can still see that upper low, and it's really starting to move rather quickly. It's been crawling the last couple of days, but it's starting to pick up some momentum here as it moves into upstate New York and eventually heads up into northern New England and southeastern Canada. So that's going to be the impetus here. All this dry air that is coming down behind it. I drew that arrow yesterday, and it still actually holds true today. The dry air actually came down into much of the southern states to the southeast. We still have a little bit of moisture in the coastal Carolinas that's streaming north. We're just some clouds, some blow-off clouds. But this dry air, it was nice. Low dew points. And as I said, a nice low of 47 this morning here with a high of 68. Meanwhile, we've got all this tropical moisture coming up into the southwest again. This is not related to K anymore. This is just the monsoon in action. So we're seeing showers and thunderstorms moving up through New Mexico today, parts of Arizona, Nevada, and they're showing up here with the lightning flashes. Also seeing some scattered thunderstorms out in the Bahamas and over Cuba. It looks like a little upper trough is going through there. And we've got cloudiness in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico and over the Yucatan Peninsula, but nothing here that you see is going to become a tropical storm or a tropical depression or anything like that. I'm going to bring up the tropical satellite. Oh, Mr. Rayo is back. Just hang on. There you go. So we'll get a few extra frames in here so we can take a look and see what's going on.
Yeah, we had a 90-second power outage.
You did. No, I figured as much when you froze up.
Well, I mean, it just went black, and there were about 2 or 3 brief, and I do mean brief, like less than 1 second periods where the power was trying to come back. The light, one of the lights in here flashed on but flashed off quickly, and grabbed my little flashlight that I have here for emergency purposes, and figured I'd head upstairs because I knew Renata was in the dark, and on the way up, the lights came back. So there you go. We are back.
Just amazing.
And I said to Renata, I said, he probably thinks I did this on purpose because I said it was going to be the shortest Joe and Joe on record.
No, you didn't drop off right away. So when you didn't drop off right away, I knew it wasn't a joke.
Yeah.
Maybe for a second I thought that it might have been, but now when you froze the way you did and then you didn't move, that was clearly. I even said right before I checked to see that I got the text message from Mrs. Rayo that your power went. I had just said maybe his power went out and he lost the internet, and sure enough, there goes. I got the message.
And there you go.
While you were frozen, I showed the UCAR radar loop going back to early this morning when thunderstorms rolled on through, and they even had a tornado warning that went up in Brooklyn for a short period of time. That's probably the one time that I can think of recently where thunderstorms actually did develop according to what was advertised, and maybe even better than what was advertised. And the rain production for Long Island was actually fairly substantial, 1 to 2 inches of rain in a lot of places.
Yeah, well, if you remember last night, I had mentioned that both the 3-kilometer NAM and the HRRR were both signaling that we would see significant shower and storm activity, but not until late night, after midnight. And Renata and I, we went to bed just before midnight, like 11:30, 11:45. And as my eyes was, as my head hit the pillow, my eyes were closing. She said, oh, I just saw lightning. And I said, very good. And I don't know how long it was thereafter, but there was some good rumbles of thunder over Rancho Rayo. So I said to myself, well, I guess we're getting what was expected by some of the models. And that was the last that's when I went completely blank. So there you go. It did indeed happen, as again, some of the models, some of the short-term models had suggested.
Meanwhile, I moved on. I got the tropical satellite up since you did. We touched upon the fact that it's pretty much a snooze factor. And let me move myself out so we could take a look. There's 2 waves, 2 tropical waves, and a third one that's about to come off the African coast. They're both pretty disorganized. The wave that's in the central Atlantic it kind of reminds me of Earl, Joe, in its formative stages, where we had these 2 distinct clusters of thunderstorms, not much going on between the 2 of them, and there appears to be some sort of turning, some sort of mid-level circulation, but definitely disorganized and no sign of any kind of development. So I wonder whether we'll have to wait to see what happens. The Hurricane Center does have a 40% probability in the next 5 days that maybe a depression will form, even though conditions are, quote, marginally conducive. And I got to tell you, I just noticed this on this loop. There is a really deep. This must be up at like 300 millibars, like way up there in the atmosphere. There is a deep trough that is sitting off the East Coast that extends all the way down into the Caribbean. If you look at the clouds the way they're moving in the Northeast Gulf, they're moving north to south into the Caribbean, and then in the Eastern Caribbean, they're moving from south to north. So there's some kind of upper low that seems to be sitting in the southeastern Bahamas or just north of the Dominican Republic. If that doesn't go away, if that stays in place, this wave is going to have a whole lot of difficulty trying to develop in that kind of environment.
Yeah, it's amazing, Joe. We've been talking about this now for the longest time. That here we are in a La Nina pattern. It is now just past the peak of hurricane season. You would anticipate that we would be seeing a lot of activity of sorts, and it's just not happening. And I don't. I'm beginning to scratch my head. I'm sure a lot of the forecasters, the hurricane forecasters, some of which had predicted, by the way, how many, like 14 or 16 tropical storms?
Oh, there were predictions out there for 20.
Right.
14 to 20.
And what blows my mind is that the most recent update, we had come off a very quiet stretch, and they were still saying that we were going to have significant activity, assuming that a lot of the stuff would catch up, but it doesn't show any signs of catching up. And now you're showing this deep trough over the Caribbean, which you're absolutely right. If that holds forth for a good long time, any kind of tropical system, any kind of tropical wave just ain't going to be able to make it through all of that. I mean, you could have the most potent development off of Africa churning along through the Atlantic. If that thing hits that trough, that's going to be pretty much it. It'll pretty much tear that system apart. So I don't know what to tell you. What the end of September or October has in store in terms of tropical activity, but so far a very, very quiet, unusually quiet tropical system. And interestingly, I mean, the one storm that we have seen, the one hurricane that we've seen in Atlantic waters was a very potent storm. Earl reached up to a Cat 3. It's not like these storms have been, minor systems, but the few that we have seen.
Did Earl even make a Cat 3? I don't think it did, Joe.
I thought I saw Cat 3, but
no, the highest I remember seeing was 105. I mean, unless it did for one advisory, I didn't, but I didn't see it. And I was just going to say, the bigger bust might be the fact that there's supposed to be 3 majors. Now, there's plenty of time for that between now and the middle and latter part of October, when we've seen them even in November,
right.
in those gangbuster years. But I just can't see how you're going to get to those forecasts that are on the high end of 18, 19, 20. Every day that goes by, the probability of hitting those high numbers drops a little lower, a little lower, a little lower. Because I mean, time is going to be the ultimate killer in terms of getting for those forecasts to verify. They're just going to run out of time.
Yep, it's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Even I had commented about the lack of any activity during the month of July, and I said, if it goes this way, we might see by the end of this season maybe 7 or 8 tropical systems. I think we're going to be a lot closer to that number as opposed to some of those numbers that were put out by these hurricane forecasters of 16, 18, even 20. So it's a very quiet season.
So don't even ask anymore. Not you. I'm telling folks. The same folks that would ask about the hurricane forecasts in the spring are pretty much asking about the winter forecast now. Don't even bother. We went through a bunch of things last night in terms of some of the longer range climatic models that supposedly go out. They do go out months and months in advance. You look at them, okay, big deal, and then you move on, because there's not, to me, excuse me, and I've said this many times, I don't think the forecasts have much value unless you're an oil trader or a nat gas trader and you want to bet on a cold winter or a warm winter. I really don't see the point of it. Meanwhile, the Storm Prediction Center, with its 2% tornado risk and 5% wind, 5 to 15% wind risk and 5% hail risk, the slight risk area is playing out pretty much according to plan. The marginal risk, at least from the standpoint from New York City back into northern New Jersey, the Hudson Valley, and southern Connecticut, that's pretty much done with now. And over the next couple of days, Mr. Rayo, there's not a whole lot happening. The eastern half of the U.S., except for Florida and South Texas, no thunderstorm activity, and also in northern Maine, probably left over from today's system. The actions in the plains and the Rockies and in the Southwest. Day 3, which takes us to Thursday into Friday, pretty much everywhere east of the Mississippi, no thunderstorms, except for Florida, South Texas, the plains, and up into the central Rockies and into the parts of the northern Rockies. So from that standpoint, and take a look at the 7-day rainfall forecast, folks, because now that light green is 1/100th of an inch, all right, and the next shade of green is 1/10 of an inch. So why don't we just use that darker shade of green, which is 1/4 of an inch? Okay, because anything under 1/4 of an inch, it's really sort of meaningless. But the vast majority of central and southern New England, the mid-Atlantic, the southeast, the deep south, only along the immediate Gulf Coast do you have maybe some half-inch amounts. And the area that continues back into Texas, Oklahoma, and then on up into the Ohio Valley to the lower Great Lakes, Joe. Not a drop of rain for the next week. Nothing. Not a flake, not an ice pellet, nothing.
Well, what else can I tell you? We've made some good recovery from the severe drought situation here in parts of the Northeast, but it looks like this is just going to set us back. This looks like a 7-day stretch of no precipitation whatsoever. So I hope we all enjoyed what we had last night, because again, as Joe just pointed out, this may be the last of the wet weather or any kind of wet weather for a while.
Okay, so yesterday we pointed out how the European and the GFS were in two different places. And as we take a look at the upper air, of course, we've got this trough in the east that's pulling out. Nice flat ridge builds in for the rest of the week and into the weekend. And we still have ridging into next week. Here comes the big upper high building in virtually the same place that it was building most of this summer in the middle Mississippi Valley on the GFS. And it kind of tries to nudge a little east, only to get eventually suppressed by what the GFS has as a deep trough, James Bay, dropping southeastward and swinging through New England and the Northeast for the middle part of next week. That's a nice short wave that's coming down there, and it'll probably be a quick, decent push of cooler air because that trough's going to pull out. The ridge is kind of flat down in the northeastern Gulf of Mexico, and it swings another trough into the northeast. This one much more important in the longer long range. Boy, if this verifies, it's going to be really cool, Joe, toward the end of the month, around the 27th, around the 26th, 27th of September. If this is right, look how deep that trough is.
Look at that thing. Oh, my God.
And then look at the animal in the west that drops down along the coast of California. That would be at least, that might bring some rain into California. Again, this is the GFS's, sort of fantasy view, I guess, if you want to call it that. Now let's look at the European and see what the European has done. And by the way, for the same time frame, I just switched. This is for next Thursday, September 22nd. The European has
first day of fall.
Right. Has a 594 big high centered somewhere in southern West Virginia. The height at New York City and Long Island, Joe, 591. Okay. Yeah. And then you take a look at the GFS, which has got a trough getting ready to swing southeastward and move into the northeast. Okay. The models are different in terms of their positioning from yesterday to an extent, but now they're different. They're just using, there's different things are in different places. They're still showing two different sorts of outcomes. But if we take the European at face value, and I'll roll back so we can start from the beginning, because it's always best to start at the beginning, and then you follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. There's your trough in the east. Say goodbye. We know what's coming here. Some really nice weather for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And here we go into Monday on the European. The upper float actually turns more northwest because the upper high is back in Oklahoma. And there's some nice troughs moving into the western part of the United States, which we'll take a look at the surface. But big difference, Joe. I mean, do we believe the strong ridge in the east? I mean, or do we believe the GFS with that big trough coming down into southeastern Canada?
I don't know. Who do you want to believe, Joe?
I will tell you that one of the big differences, and maybe this is where it lies, and I'll switch to the North Atlantic. The European is trying to develop something in the Caribbean, and I just wonder whether that's even real or not. I've become really suspicious. You know, you always have to be somewhat suspicious when models spin up Category 5 hurricanes, but the way this season's going, you got to be suspicious even if they just show open lows. It does have some kind of tropical system going into the Northwest Caribbean, and I don't know, that might be, the model might be keying on this and strengthening the ridging in the eastern part of the United States where the GFS has, I believe, you say the GFS has nothing. There is no tropical system on the GFS. So being that trying to get a tropical storm these days is like pulling teeth, I would kind of go along with the idea that maybe the GFS might have a better solution, better idea here.
Well, but the GFS to me is just too anomalous. I mean, such a wound up upper low in the Northeast, and at the same time a wound up upper low in the southwestern states.
Yeah, it does seem a bit much.
I mean, what do they call that? Do they call that a Rex block, or I don't know if it's an Omega block or whatever?
I don't know. It's I'm not sure. The actual surface map on the GFS, if we take a look, it's got a fair amount of rain up in the northern plains and in the western lakes, and that goes, by to one. Actually, there's some sort of warm front or a little warm front that sets up in New England Sunday night and Monday, but that goes up through New England during the day on Monday into Tuesday, and then it drops down. It's going to be one of these fronts like we saw in July and August where, there's a front there, but the air behind it is almost as warm as the air, or even warmer than the air ahead of it. The more important front on the GFS is later in the week, because that really brings that cooler air down if that upper trough in the east is correct. And checking out the long range, yeah, I mean, it's still trying to do this, Joe, where after next weekend, the weekend of the 24th, 25th, there's a much more important front that comes through with a 1030-ish high coming down out of Canada, and 540 thicknesses, Joe. The 540 thickness is south of Pittsburgh. Okay, in fact, the 540 thickness on Wednesday to September 28th is on the Pennsylvania Maryland border, like right in the middle of the state, across just north of Philadelphia to about Trenton to New York City to between Springfield and Worcester to Concord, New Hampshire, and the 534 is at Binghamton.
Miss Spellerite on the chat board is also saying, look to the Pacific where there's a typhoon. I guess she's trying to make the illusion that maybe there's a game changer or some kind of a pattern changer thanks to that.
Well, before I do that, let's go to current storms. There's Typhoon Muifa. How would you pronounce that? Muifa?
Moifa?
Moifa.
I don't know.
At 27.3 and 123.6 east. Okay. Top winds are 85 knots. This does not look like it's a recurving typhoon, though. It goes into China. And, yeah, it doesn't recurve a near or east of Japan. This goes pretty far to the left, so it might not be that one. Let's see if there's another one out there. Fifth Murbach at 27. This one's much further out. So what? 27 and 162.2 east. Top winds are 65 miles an hour, 65 knots, so 70 miles. Now this one's going to recurve. This one recurves. In fact, it's already moving northward because it's almost at 30 north. This one recurves and goes into the Bering Straits. So maybe that gets down. They got a 955 pressure that I assume that this is when it's extratropical here. When it's at near 60 north, Joe, and 180 degrees west. So is that 180? At 180 degrees, which is technically not east or west.
The date line.
Yes, the date line. It's a 940 low. And then when it gets up to into the Bering Straits, it's at 955. Maybe that's what the model's keying on because that's at 96 hours. Perhaps that's what the GFS is keying on, that it's creating downstream changes for later next week. So that could be why.
Christiopedia says maybe it's Mulva. And then she says, if you watch a certain show, you'll totally get that. I got it.
I don't. I didn't get it.
You're obviously not a Seinfeld fan.
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that. I wasn't I watched some of it. It was okay, but I wasn't a regular viewer. I watched it from time to time. I wasn't really into it.
Okay.
Hold on, let's get you back up on the screen. We've pretty much covered all the weather we're going to cover tonight with the way things are. There we go. So those of you who are interested in the winter and the long range, go back and look at last night's show on my YouTube, on the YouTube library, because we did some stuff with the climate models, which they are what they are. They seem to suddenly have gotten colder for the winter in the eastern part of the Northeast and the Great Lakes and so on. So the snow lovers could start drooling now for the next 3 months, and we'll see. We'll see what happens when we get there. So, do you have Briller Jeopardy tonight? I think you do.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yes, you do.
Right. And this is from the chairman. He says, as we continue Briller Jeopardy with retired names, we come up with the letters K and L. So there are 3 storms that have been retired, or 3 names that have been retired with the letter K.
Okay. Before we do that, thank you. Welcome to everybody that's on the chat board tonight. Got a nice little audience tonight. 34 likes so far. If you like the show, hit the like button, because Joe and I love it when you hit the like button. And thank you for those of you who have. Okay, I had to get that. I wanted to say that. Okay, so Katrina is one of the K storms.
Obviously, yes.
Obvi. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get the other 2. Katrina, names with K's. Carl. What else? Karen.
No, Karen.
No. Keith.
There you have it. Is number 2.
Okay.
From the year 2000.
Okay, I'll let the chat board try to get the third one, because I have no Kate, says Craig Carlberg.
No
Kate. No Karen, we already figured that out. Ken.
No.
No. All right, let's
and Johnny Quest gets it.
Klaus von Bülow.
Yeah. And that was of 1990, and the chairman refers to Klaus as the Santa storm.
Okay. Now for L.
All right, there were 4 L storms that have been retired.
Okay, so I'm going to say Lenny.
Lenny was number one. Well, not number one on the list here, but
Uh, um,
in alphabetical order. But yeah, Lenny is on
Louis.
the list.
Luis.
Luis, yes. I remember, I don't know why, but I think Renata and I were on Montauk Point when Luis was approaching. We were watching the swells from the lighthouse. I actually got into the lighthouse at Montauk Point, looking down, and had a chance to see the rough seas. I remember that very well.
One from was it last year? Laura.
Laura, that was 2020, actually.
2020, 2 years ago. The years are going by quick, Joe. Laura in 2020, and male or female?
Female.
Female. La 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 la. Lily.
You got it.
I
Lily.
did? Oh, Lily, yes. La da 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 da.
And I don't think that Lily, and I don't think it was the 2002 version of Lily, but in the 80s, I think there was a hurricane that formed and was on the maps on Christmas Day, and that was Hurricane Lily.
Yeah, but
that was not Lily in 2002.
Well, 2002. If it was the one in the 1980s, the name wouldn't have been in 2002.
What do you mean?
It's a retired name, so if they retired it in 1988, well, why would they use it in 2002?
Right, but what I'm saying is that an earlier version of Lily, not retired, was on Christmas Day in 2000. No, not 2002, but sometime in the 80s, I think.
Okay.
I don't have exactly what year it was, but I do remember that. Oh, look at that! We have a hurricane on Christmas Day yet. Which must have annoyed all the people down at the Hurricane Center, because they're more or less on vacation.
Well, let's clarify this. Is it Lili or Lily?
It's Lili.
Okay, so there was a Hurricane Lily in 1984, and then a Hurricane Lily in 1996. So it's got to be the 96 one that was retired, Joe. Was a relatively long-lived hurricane of 1996, affected the countries from Central America to the United Kingdom. Lily formed on October 14th, reached Category 3, 22 fatalities, $662 million in damage. Areas affected Central America, Cuba, Florida, the Bahamas, Bermuda, Ireland, and Great Britain. I want to see if they does it say if they retired? Blah blah blah. Preparation and impact. Blah blah blah. On and on.
Well, I have Lily, Lili, September 21st to October 4th, 2002, Category 4, Windward Islands, Cuba, Jamaica, Haiti, and Louisiana.
Then it's got to be the 2002 or 2004.
It says 2002.
Okay, so it's got to be that one that was retired.
Right.
Okay.
Which was the one that you were talking about?
I wasn't talking about any of them. I just guessed the name. You brought up the 1980 whatever it was, that Christmas Day.
Right, but that I don't think was retired.
Well,
why would they retire a storm simply because it happened on Christmas Day?
Right, but had they and I said that yes, if they had retired the storm in that 1980 storm, the name would not have been used again. So right. It wasn't retired. Okay. Right. So anyhow, you lost power. You lost power tonight, didn't you?
Yes, unless the storm in question was another Lily with Y instead of I at the end.
Right, and I don't think they would have. They probably would have avoided that. So anyway, we get the idea.
There's actually, I'm looking here. There's actually a plant known as hurricane lilies. There's a plant named it.
It could be. I wouldn't be surprised. All right, so that was that. Right. And yes, Michael Azara, correct. There was a Hurricane Lily in 1990 and in 96. So it took several versions before they finally got to one that was strong enough that was retired. Did you see I asked the question earlier on the road? 5 teams, none correct. JQ. I'm sorry that was the chairman was talking to Johnny Quest. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get in the middle of that conversation. All right, so here we are at 8:12 Eastern Time, and I think we pretty much have covered our weather here for tonight. Like as you said, Joe, it's going to be like this for a little while. So we'll probably have shorter than usual shows unless something comes out of the out of left field.
Yeah, and if I just could mention here, because we mentioned our loved ones on the chat board occasionally, whatever. And I haven't mentioned this, but my mom has been at the Montefiore Hospital in the Bronx for the last week. Apparently, her caretaker had COVID, passed it on to my mother. And for a few days, my mother didn't have any effects whatsoever. But then one morning, I think it was last Tuesday, she ended up having problems breathing. So they took her to Montefiore, where she's been recovering. Spoke with her this evening on the phone. My sister was there with her, and sounds much better than she did,
Good.
let's say, a few days ago. And it's quite possible that they may be releasing her perhaps at the end of this week. So anybody want to say a little prayer for from Mama Rayo? She is going to be reaching a milestone birthday in a few weeks, Joe, on October 12th, Columbus Day, the big 9-0. Wow.
God bless. Well, my mother just turned 88. News Radio 88 WCBS New York. 4 tones will follow. The fourth and loudest one marks your exact age.
Yeah.
The Joe and Joe Weather Show, I did find what I couldn't find, which I actually had all along. It was right in front of me. The Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, in Southwest Suffolk County, and has everything you need. If we do get a tropical storm or hurricane, good time to make sure you got a working generator or sump pump. And if you're thinking about getting your yard done, well, they've got mulch and topsoil, and come winter time, salt. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number, and the website, as we all know, is
OmniTrueValue.com. But that came out better than it's been the last 2 weeks.
You really do sound great. So.
Well, thank you very much, Joe.
All right, so everybody, thanks for being here tonight. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern Time. Nighty night.
Nighty night, folks.